I'm going to take over for just a second, and I am going to tell everyone about the wonderful Khadejah Scott that we have today. First of all, I'm going to let you know that we are recording this, and it will be posted on our website, so you can go back to it over and over again. And if you have any issue with your whole name being on there for the recording, you can just go down to participants and then go over to the right, click on the 3 dots by your name, and you can just take off your last name and just put your first name on there. And so Khadejah, I also want to let you know that the little chat thing down at the bottom, you are welcome to at any point during the talk, click on that and type a question in. And then in the end, Khadejah will answer all the questions she can, which I'm sure will be all. And so do that, and then we'll have fun talking and answering questions in the end. But today, we have Khadejah Scott. She is the Director of Urban Agriculture Academy at Memphis TILF, a nonprofit striving to cultivate collective action for an economically sustainable, socially equitable, and environmentally sound local food system. Khadejah works to build human capacity through hands-on training in urban growing and sustainability. Her commitment is to improve environmental health, food security, self-sufficiency, and overall quality of life for urban community growers and farmers of color who are underrepresented and systematically socially disadvantaged in the world of agriculture. Khadejah has expanded her presence in the community by partnering with various public service organizations to address food system issues and supports numerous neighborhood and community gardens. Khadejah believes sustainable agriculture is an investment in tomorrow and a powerful deterrent in poverty and food-related insecurity. Most recently, Khadejah launched a small production shop, Cheerful Earth Botanicals. She began using the herbs and medicinal plants in her growing spaces to create a variety of natural care products and treatments. As a result, her interest in plant folklore intensified, leading to the presentation we have today. So I'm going to turn it over to Khadejah Scott.
Thank you so much, Lindley. And again, thank everyone for coming. Can everyone see? All right. Good afternoon, and thank you guys for coming to my Munch and Learn. As Lindley said, I'm Khadejah. I'm the director of the Urban Ag Academy at Memphis TILF. So plants have always had a valued place in history. The wonder surrounding the inspiration of nature has long been present, transcending across countries and cultures. Today's Munch and Learn is going to talk a lot about the magical folklore that encircles plants as they have moved from ancient beliefs in modern times. You'll find a lot of the phrases and common myths that you're used to hearing have had a presence in society since the classical Greek period. So yeah, we'll go over myths, magic, and lore. Knock on wood, said in order to prevent a confident statement from bringing bad luck. I'm sure at some point we've all used this phrase to prevent bringing bad luck. It's somewhat of a habit by now, especially for me, that has turned into hope for a lot of us. But it's existed in the world since Caesar crossed the Rubicon. As anthropologists have examined culture, trees have always had an intrinsic value across a variety of ancient European cultures as a source of refuge and safety. This is especially true for the Celts. So the ancient Celtic religion, also known as Celtic paganism, comprises the religious beliefs and the practices that were adhered to by the Iron Age people of Western Europe and what is now known as the Celts. This was roughly between 500 BCE and 500 CE. The Celts believed that the spirits and the gods resided in the trees, so that kind of makes you a little bit more familiar with knock on wood. Knocking on tree trunks may have served not only to rouse the spirits and call on their protection, but was also a way of showing gratitude to their gods. What's really neat about knock on wood as a myth is it appears in many other areas of the world that are believed to have little to no access with each other, but they still have similar phrases. For example, similar tradition exists in Croatia, Montenegro, Serbia, and even Egypt. I found a lot of these beliefs are similar across every single continent. If I told you every culture that has a similar meaning for trees, this Munch and Learn would probably not end. But yeah, pretty much every single continent that we know of right now has some value placed on trees, but that really just shows you the supernatural significance that trees have had throughout history. The rowan. So rowan is a fast-growing pioneer tree. Basically is one of the first trees that was colonized in the Americas in the Caledonian forest. Rowans are also called mountain ashes. You might be familiar with that. It's from Sorbus, the genus of the rose family, characterized by the brilliant red berries at the end of the summer. You can see the tree in the right-hand portion of the screen. The rowan is also really prominent in Norse mythology as the tree from which the first woman was made. So rowan was said to save the life of the god Thor. Basically, he was drowning in the water, and the rowan tree bent over the flowing river while Thor was drowning in the underworld in a lake, and it helped him swept him away and saved him from the water and saved his life. So now rowans are represented as courage, wisdom, and protection. That belief is still really popular today. You'll see a lot of people in the United States included that will have the trees planted in their front yards as a sign of good luck. Mullein. So this is probably one of the most popular herbal plants today in the 21st century. It's also known as Verbascum thapsus, the great mullein or the common mullein. It's a hairy herbaceous biennial native to Europe, Northern Africa, and Asia that was later on introduced to the Americas and Australias. Basically, when the Europeans colonized the New World, mullein just hitched a ride across the Atlantic with them and made its way to the Americas. Right now, its Latin origin is still uncertain, but it most likely derives from the words barba and thapos, which just means Mediterranean, and beard. If you've seen mulleins close up, you can see it in the bottom right-hand screen. It's a very hairy, prickly plant. So in both Europe and Asia, prominently Germany and India, rowan was believed to have the power of driving away evil spirits. From the ancient classics, we learned that this plant is a plant that Ulysses used to protect himself against Circe. Circe was the enchantress that turned all of Ulysses's companions into pigs. So legend has it that the witches used the long stalks of mullein as torches to protect themselves from other people. And you still see this pretty popular today in a lot of the shops, even the ones that you'll see in downtown Memphis. You'll have mullein dried with sage and wrapped up, and that's believed to protect the wearer from it. Again, I talked earlier about how it's still really popular in modern times. The leaves and the flowers in mullein contain polysaccharides and other anti-inflammatory agents, which are said to be really helpful against coughs and lung issues. So the traditional use in the United States of this plant is really strong and continues to be that way, but the effects of it haven't really been studied by the CDC yet. Rue the day. Rue comes from the Old English word rowan. It means to make sorry. Ruta, the plant commonly called rue, is native to Southern Europe. It's a woody-based shrubby perennial. It looks very similar to a fern. It's got compound leaves. Rue is extremely bitter. So when I first saw this, I thought that rue the day got its name from the extremely bitter plant and people would regret the fact that they ate it. However, if we go back to classical Greek, the bitter oils in rue actually had a lot of positive significance. Rue could heal pretty much every ailment you would think of. It was very highly revered by the people. So people would wear it around their necks, their wrists, their ankles to ward off monsters. They would throw it on the floor before walking into a building to protect themselves from plagues. English judges were even said to carry sprigs of rue on their person to protect them from the diseases that were commonly shown by prisoners. It wasn't actually until 1912 that the plant rue was then intertwined with the phrase rue the day and received that negative connotation, but it's still worn in a lot of cultures as a sign of luck. But once there was a story basically that was written in 1912 that talked about how rue would kill you, and that's where it got its negative connotation. It hasn't really been able to separate rue the plant from rue the day since then. Most people are familiar with foxgloves. They come from the digitalis genus. They were used in ancient times as a drug, and they're still used today in heart medicine. Digitalis has a cardiac glycoside that speeds up your heart rate. So it's used for certain heart conditions, and that's still to this day. But then foxglove was associated with the planet Venus. Venus was an ancient Italian goddess associated with the cultivated fields and gardens, and later identified by the Romans as the Greek goddess of love, Aphrodite. In most forms of Italian magic, foxglove is said to open the user of the plant to strong sexual love and increase arousal, which is pretty appropriate when you think about what Venus means on its own anyway. The romantic love is probably the best known associated with Venus. She also rules arts, beauty, and fairies, and those who live nearby her in enchantment. A lot of times, if you look at mythology, foxgloves are going to be intertwined with fairies. Fairies were said to live inside of foxgloves, which is again where you get that very artsy, dainty feel that's associated with foxglove, the plant. Blackthorn. Blackthorn is probably one of the most sinister plants that you're going to see in all of Celtic tree lore. It's usually associated with the dark side of the year. It's from the prunus species, which is related to almonds, peaches, all of those within that family. So blackthorn berries are known because they ripen after the first frost and the flowers bloom before the leaves. So the blackthorn is very tied to winter, and therefore it's considered brave by the Irish because it only exists when nothing else does, if that makes sense. It's the last survivor. So in Irish folklore, the blackthorn is always guided by the moon fairy, which are not considered to be friendly towards humans. So everywhere that you saw blackthorn, that was considered to be a sign of bad luck. The tree also provided walking sticks for English witches and connected them to Mars and the Celtic fire god of Bel. So the name blackthorn was given by the Druids. It derives from the word ogam. This is one of my favorite mythical plants. It's not really mythical because it definitely still exists today. But peyote cactuses are small, spineless cactuses. They've got psychoactive alkaloids, the most prominent one being mescaline. Mescaline has been used by Native Americans for thousands of years in religious ceremonies and for the treatment of a variety of physical ailments. Even though the use of mescaline is illegal in the United States, peyote and mescaline are still recognized as a sacrament in the Native American church inside of North America. Peyote is seen in a lot of shamanistic rituals. The drug was somewhere discovered between 1870 to 1910. So shamans would acquire the peyote power, it's called, and become leaders of the ceremonies when they're conducted. So during these rituals, the shamans and other participants would take the peyote and experience religious ecstasy, visions, logical distortions, and have communications with supernatural shamans. And that kind of validated their power and efficiency. They were the only ones of their tribes that had the ability to have this religious ecstasy. But then later on down the time, around 1915, the use of peyote by people not just from the Native American or indigenous background began abusing peyote as a drug. Once everybody's doing it, it's not really as cool. So the use of peyote by others at ceremonies made the effects that it had pretty common, and the uniqueness of it as it related to shamans' experiences pretty much dissipated. This is one of my favorite medicinal plants, if not my top favorite. It's not well known to the Western Americas right now. This is called African dream root. It's the dried roots of Silene capensis, and it's said to enhance the clarity of your dreams, your dream recall, and can also induce lucid dreaming. So it's also known as ubalalu, which is a traditional medicine in South Africa where they use medicinal drugs and psychoactive plants. African dream root carnations, dianthus, are also within this same realm. So it's been used for centuries in African culture where dreams were viewed as a gift, or fairies would bring you messages from a dreamer. So it's been used as an enhancer for lucid dreaming since the Eastern Cape of South America by the Xhosa shaman of the river valleys in South Africa. And there it's known as white pass. The roots induce especially vivid dreams, but again, it has never really entered mainstream Western culture and still continues to be a belief that's sacred and used along with other traditions, herbs, and flowers in Africa. That was it. So thank you guys again for coming to my Munch and Learn. The world of plants has always been really inspiring. Since I started producing at home in some of my growing spaces, it's just been really nice to figure out how all these plants have had an extremely intrinsic value throughout all of culture. Most of the traditions I share with you today have several other meanings and importances that are not just within those countries. Like I said, these plants transcend across every continent that you can think of, and there's still so many others to be covered. People have been working with plants longer than we've had a language, and there's still so much to learn about. Are there any questions?
Yes, there are some questions. And if you'd like, you can stop sharing your screen so we can see people.
Okay.
And sometimes people raise their hands for questions. Okay, hey everybody. So you mentioned that I think it was the rowan is a pioneer tree. What exactly do you mean by a pioneer tree?
Yeah, of course. So when I say pioneer tree, I kind of compare it to being colonized, right? The pioneer species are usually hardy plants that were first colonized in environments and kind of the founders of biodiversity before anything has been disrupted. So for the rowan specifically, it was the first tree to exist in the Caledonian forest. And then when that forest was burnt down, it still existed, even though other plants within its surroundings were killed. So it's the first, it's the umpire, it's the colonizer, and the original feature of that forest. And that goes with other plants as well. Most of your hardy trees are considered pioneer species.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, and also you mentioned that peyote is illegal, and I'm not very familiar with peyote, and so I was wondering if it's illegal to have the plant itself, or if just simply taking it as a drug is illegal. So is it illegal to have a peyote plant, or is it just illegal to ingest it?
It is illegal to possess it, sell it, and also consume it.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's see, and also these plants that, that are taken medicinally, are they ingested in different ways? Or are they ingested, or some used as creams? Do you make, tinctures or teas? How are most of them converted from plant to thing you can ingest and take as a medicine?
Yeah, of course. There's a variety of different methods that you can take a lot of these plants in. It really does depend on the plant, but I've seen things as far as soaking roots and herbs inside of hot water and allowing their properties to filtrate the water and then drinking the water. You'll also see people turn them into tinctures, which is essentially leaving or submerging a plant inside of alcohol, and so the alcohol extract those plants' properties, and then people consume that alcohol. People also will take the herbs, especially if they're just leaves, and dry them and then use those to make a tea or turn them into creams, put them into rubs. You can pretty much, plants are very malleable and you can do anything with them. So there's a lot of outlets for people to take medicinal plants. The most popular ones nowadays are usually going to be tinctures and creams.
Okay, thank you. Corky has a really good question. She wants to know if you know any of the mythology or lore that's specific to plants in the Memphis or the Mid-South area.
A lot of the things that is a really good question. Most of the things that I have come across have not actually existed in the Western world. So there's not a lot of plant myths that are indigenous to the Americas, because most of these existed across the continent and then were brought here through colonization. So most of the plant myths that you're going to find is not going to be on the Memphis property unless it was like sacred shamanistic land. Otherwise, it's moving from another culture into the United States. That's why most of these plant myths and magic and lore don't actually originate in the United States.
And so like the African dream root, I think you called it, is that available for people to get? I mean, you know, we can pretty much get everything online, but are there ways to get these plants, or do you get a processed version of it that you can already take, or the plant itself and then sort of do it yourself?
Yeah, so the African drum root is becoming more popular in Western civilization now. So there are outlets, like you said, you can purchase everything on Amazon. Etsy is also a good source if you're trying to find African dream root, but they are usually going to be relatively processed in order for them to travel from South Africa all the way to the United States. But yes, Etsy and Amazon, the Apothecary Fairy are all really good places to get some of these natural herbs that were used in rituals.
Okay, well, great. What questions do you guys have? This must have sparked some more ideas for some of you. I don't have any more questions over on the right side that people have typed in, but if you want to start typing real quick, you can, or if you'd like to unmute yourself, you're welcome to do that. If you're not sure how to do that, you can, well, most of you have your cameras off, so you can't raise your hands, but you can do the little reaction and raise your hand, and I can unmute you also. Well, then I will ask, oh, no, okay. Here's another question. Are you on social media, or do you have a blog or anything where you share information about plants?
Yeah, so my website is supposed to launch on July 31st. It is cheerfulearthbotanicals.com. And it will be visible to the public on July 31st, as well as a blog that comes with it that's called Beauty and Her Beats, that incorporates different stories and myths surrounding the plants and some of the products that I sell as well.
Are you going to be selling anything at farmers markets or anything?
I sell into the Bring It Food Hub community-sponsored agriculture subscription. So that basically is an aggregation of food from local farmers, and also includes some of the tinctures and teas and other medicinal plants that I have available. So if you sign up through that subscription, you can get stuff purchased now.
Khadejah, excuse me, could you please put that website that you just mentioned on chat so I can get it, please?
Sure, of course. And then I can email Lindley when the website launches.
Okay.
Yes, I'll be happy to help with that. You guys can ask me for any information, and we will have this video online, and I will ask our social media queen, Kristen, if she can add that into the notes of it or something. And oh, Khadejah just shared it, cheerfulearthbotanicals.com. So it's down in the group chat, if you can see it. So I'm just kind of interested in how you got so interested in plants. And usually I ask artists when we're doing an artist munch and learn, when they first started seeing themselves and calling themselves an artist. And so when did you first realize you had this love of plants, and especially this connection with them?
Of course. I come from a generation of farmers. I'm from Cherry Valley, Arkansas, and my parents kind of always instilled in me, what if there were no grocery stores? Are you going to be able to grow your own food? So I've been working alongside my family to kind of have a form of independence outside of grocery stores so that I can provide my own food for myself. So that kind of sparked my interest in agriculture and growing. And then more recently, as I started building my own space in my own yard and renting space throughout the city, I began realizing that a lot of the plants that we already have, like rosemary and basil and lemon thyme that you see and that you're already probably familiar with, have a lot of value medicinally that we probably haven't been taking advantage of. And so when I realized that, I started purchasing a whole bunch of apothecary books and witchcraft books, trying to recognize the value that our ancestors also saw. So they've already existed before our time. And so I'm now just getting involved in trying to reach back to my ancestors and figure out all the natural medicines and natural products they used and created before we had our traditional medicine.
Okay, thank you. I come from a line of farmers in Arkansas also, so I like that, and but I did not get that same kind of love of plants that you did, although I do love plants. I just don't dive into the dirt and do it. Okay, are there any more questions that anyone has? You can type them in, or you can unmute and just ask.
I can't think of a particular question, but I just want to say that this topic is so interesting, and I feel like I will be thinking about it and come up with questions later. So thank you. It's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciated it. And if anybody has any questions moving forward, my contact information was viewable. So you're welcome to ask questions, get samples of products, figure out where I'll be selling in pop-up markets if you guys are interested as well.
Okay, good. It's great to know how to get in touch with you, because I'm sure people will start thinking about this, and maybe they'll see something in their yard and they'll be like, I wonder if that can be used for anything. And so please contact Khadejah through her website, cheerfulearthbotanicals.com, with any questions you might have. And thank you so much for coming today. And thank you, Khadejah, for doing this.
Thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate it.
Excuse me, Landley. Will you
Yes.
have a Munch and Learn next week through Zoom?
I do have a Munch and Learn next week. And guess what? It is
What?
Kevin Sharp.
Yay!
The crowd goes wild. So yes, it is Kevin. You can get to the link through our website. You can go to our calendar, the event calendar on the website, and it says something like click here to make a reservation. And so you can do that, or you can email me and I will send you a link. And I am lschmidt@dixon.org. And so you can get it through the website or through me. But yes, the link is created, and we are all anticipating a great talk by Kevin. The pressure's on. So thank you all for coming today. I really appreciated it. It's great to see you all.
Excuse me, one more question.
Yes,
Will
ma'am.
what is it? What is it? The deli, will it be open when y'all open back up?
The cafe, I don't believe the cafe will be open when we open this weekend.
Okay, but it will probably in the future, maybe?
We are looking forward to having it open again in the future.
Okay, and also, could you think about maybe having it outside? You know, if somebody somebody want to order, get some food and pick it up, can you do that too?
Interesting. I see Kevin coming in.
Yeah,
I can't hear you. He froze. There he is.
Kevin's Wi-Fi in his office is not good.
we haven't pinned down a specific date, but we will be. There are plenty of places to have lunch outdoors for sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anybody have any more questions? Happy to answer more. Okay, well, thank you all so much for coming. And thank you, Khadejah. This was great.
Thank you, Lindley, for inviting me, and thank you everyone else for coming. I really appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.